Hey everyone, Brent Peterson here from Talk Commerce. You know what really got me thinking about style? My kids. They looked at me one day and said, "Dad, you just can't wear hoodies and conference t-shirts anymore." They were right. As someone who's constantly meeting with e-commerce leaders, speaking at conferences, and recording podcasts, I need to look sharp. But honestly, I hate shopping for clothes. That's where Taylor comes in and rescued me. Here's how it works. You rent clothes instead of buying them. I get my own personal stylist who curates my perfect outfits and sends them to me. I can even text them about upcoming events, whether it's a big client meeting or a conference keynote. Every month, I rent 5 to 7 pieces from quality brands that fit my style perfectly. I wear them for weeks, get compliments, then send them back in a prepaid envelope when I'm done. No commitment, no clutter. And here's what I love about renting. No decision fatigue, no cluttered closets, and I'm always trying some new styles I never would have picked myself. Plus, if you really love something, you can buy it at a discount. The best part, even my kids approve of my style. If you're tired of stressing out about what to wear, try renting from Taylor. Go to tailor.style, that's Taelor.style, and trust me, your future self will thank you. Welcome to this episode of Talk Commerce. Today I have Leslie Hassler. She is a business scaling expert. Leslie, go ahead, do an introduction for yourself. Tell us your day-to-day role and one of your passions.
Sure. So I own YourBizRules, so president and founder. We are essentially a fractional C-suite for companies before they can afford to hire the full C-suite. So we serve companies in a lot of different capacities. But like you said, what we're really good at is cash flow, profitability, growth, and scalability. And in the end, having that happen in a way that improves the owner's quality of life. Day-to-day role, I was going to say chief cook and bottle washer. Some days it feels like that. We were talking about this week's a compressed week, and we're juggling a lot of balls this week. But really, I lead the team. That is my main role with Your Biz Rules and doing, focusing on our growth and scalability, which is an adventure each and every day for the work. And then one of my passions is just really good wine. I think I'm getting too old to drink really bad wine. So I focus on really good wine.
Yeah, I just did a short vacation to the Rioja region in Spain,
Ooh.
and you can't get I didn't have a bad glass of wine the whole time. It
I
was
will have to get
fantastic.
your list of places to go. I have not done that yet.
Yes, absolutely. So Leslie, before we get started though, you have volunteered to be part of the free joke project. I'm going to tell you a
Of
joke. You
course.
just give me a rating, 8 through 13. So here we go.
Okay.
I went to a costume party last night, dressed as a screwdriver. I turned a few heads.
I'll give you an 11.
All right. I never said they were going to be funny. I just said they were a joke.
My husband is a dad joke king. And so I was waiting for it, but I can remember this one and then I can turn it around on him. Although he's pretty good at puns. So he tends to figure out the punchlines before I can get them out the door. But believe me, these kinds of jokes are my day-to-day experience.
That's awesome. All right, so let's dive in. Tell us a little bit about your business and some of the fractional roles you fulfill.
Sure. So Your Biz Rules, we have been um, in business for almost 11 years. So this really came as a creation from uh, a journey I was going through in my first business, asking myself, what did I want to be when I grow up? Where did I want to go in business? And really what it came down to at that point in time was I love business. I totally geek out on business. I think about it all the time. I just wasn't in love with the business I had, my first business. So Your Biz Rules was born in 2014 as from that conversation. And this is our playground. This is where we get to do phenomenal work. We impact lives. We change futures. We transform businesses. And that is truly the mission that everyone on the team has bought into and is exciting and really passionate about delivering. We were having a discussion this week at our status meeting where I was like, I just have to let you know, if you're ever worried about whether or not you're doing a good job, that is a signal to me of how much you care. And we do a phenomenal job each and every day. But so work with a great group of people and we do really great work in the world. So that's a little bit about, what did Your Biz Rules? It really was formed from a lot of scraped knees, bruised elbows, a few trips around the learning curve, if you will. So I'd like to say that we're at the end of the day, we keep things real, we keep things practical, implementable, and approachable for the business owners out there that are trying to grow and to scale in their companies. What do we do? This whole suite, it's really, if you can imagine a C-suite leadership role for your business, that is exactly what we can provide. We are embedding some full-time CEOs into some companies that are looking to sell in the next 2 to 3 years, and we need to hyper accelerate some of that growth and scalability, and that embedding is really the best way to do it. We do a lot of fractional CFO work, as well as COO works, marketing, HR. Really what we find is that everyone comes in with a major need. Like there's one area that they need the most help with. And then as we're working that area, working the problems, solving the problems, no one problem is about one thing. So we have the ability to bring in the expertise to do the bits that need to be done so that we have a very holistic strategy, a very effective strategy, and one that ultimately generates results. So in that way, we can be a one-stop shop for a lot of companies for a good period of time.
We briefly described some frameworks like EOS and the
Yeah.
green room, and check boxes just as a way to make sure that you're doing what you want to do. And I think a repeatable framework is always important. I'm also part of the Entrepreneurs Organization, which
Yep.
is sort of involved with EOS, I should say.
Yeah.
And you're in Dallas, so do you get connected with your local chapter? And I know there's one in Fort Worth, and I've heard that Dallas is just a suburb of Fort Worth. Is that true?
That depends on which side of the line you live on. Dallas Fort Worth, I love living here. I've lived in either here or Houston. I was born in Houston, but I love Dallas Fort Worth for the ability to keep their individuality, that we can be this huge metroplex of a collection of cities. And I know that sometimes that's hard for people that don't live in our area to understand that technically, I'm the farthest north in Dallas that you could get, which is right under Plano. And I'm like, no, Plano's a whole different place. And they're like, what? And I was like, well, the lines blur, but there is cultural differences to where you live. So I love that Dallas is a suburb of Fort Worth. Only my Fort Worth people would say that. But listen, I have not actually. That's so interesting that you pointed that out, and I wasn't even aware that there was a local chapter, so I'll have to go look them up. I was just talking to my team that I need to broaden some of our networking circles and things like that. So this is the perfect time for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit about some of the frameworks that you recommend having in place to help grow. I mean, certainly measurability is one of those things. In EOS, they call it a scorecard, and I'm sure there's all kinds of terms for other things, but there's always a measuring. I think measuring, especially in marketing, like they say, if you don't measure, you're not marketing, right? So measuring is really is kind of that underlying factor.
So, I mean, let's talk about a few things. One, we're system agnostic, if you were. It's more important to me that there is a system, and that system is in alignment with the owner, the culture of the team, whichever way you want to go. So you've got EOS, you've got scaling up. You could do the great game of business. You could do the pumpkin plan. You could go OKRs and KPIs, the whole gamut. The truth of it is that they're all very, very similar. They do have different cultural flavors, and it is important to align yourself with one that fits. The structure should set you free. I mean, that's the whole point of bringing in process or technology or systems like this, is that it gives you a baseline structure. I just see so often that people mistake structure for strategy, right? And I'll give you a whole nother way to approach this. So we're heavily into AI, and we bring AI into a lot of our clients. Now, I wouldn't say we're an AI firm, but it is under the umbrella of all the work that we do with our clients. And we were talking about what are people missing the mark on. And in part, they're adopting the structure of AI without the strategy, without the expertise, or perhaps without the context. And I think that's really the important thing to understand with any system that you put on. Alignment. It's got to be in alignment. It's got to be something that feels of ease to you, because if it feels hard, it's never going to get done. I don't care how good the structure is. If it's out of alignment, then your team won't get engaged in it. And I think the beauty of some of these structures is that it allows for a team to be engaged, for a strategy called decentralization to happen, so that there are more than just the owner being working on the business. But I think that other part of it is understanding that you still need strategy. You still need some tension in the thought process that can continue to drive your business forward, because that's really what growth is about. Now, I agree with you totally. If whatever you want to improve, you should be measuring, but you don't need to measure everything. You just need to measure the things that matter. And that looks very different business to business. And I think the game we like to play in our company is, can we get it down to one? Could we get it down to one metric? And can that metric be a leading metric, not a lagging one, right? And can we get it so tuned in that we just know this is our dial? Can we get there? And that speaks to the simplicity that you're trying to get with these systems, with that overlay, if you will, into the company, is to get something that's so simple that you can get repeatable results. And that is what drives growth and exponential growth and scalability down the road.
Do you find that AI now is maybe fooling entrepreneurs into thinking they can do everything by themselves?
Fooling. I don't think it's AI. I think it's our approach to AI. I will, like I said, we're heavily into it. We have been for the last 3 years. I don't trust it farther than I can throw it. Why? Not because I think it's bad, not because I think it's wrong. I think its job, its programming, has been designed to get you the closest answer, the closest, shortest answer, the quickest it can, because the energy drain that goes through one chat, what I've heard is like one chat thread can consume a bottle of water. It is an energy drain. And so they're having to force the system to be so efficient that I feel like it loses its total value. The chat quality today, I will say this last chat GPT 5 that's come out, it's not bad. Usually our team will say chat gets stupid for about 6 months with every major launch. What was out on the in the marketplace 3 years ago was significantly better, but it wasn't scalable, right? It wasn't what that technology could handle. So I don't know. I think it's our approach and our expectation. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I got a strategic plan from chat, and I'm like, well, if you've never had a strategic plan, that's phenomenal. You've got something. But what I know is that it might work for the first iteration that you're going to do, but it loses context, because the habits as humans, we haven't learned how to have a conversation with chat in such a way that it actually produces quality work quickly. And I think that's just part of the learning curve that's going on, but it is where I do think we're abdicating our own knowledge and deference for something that can research the internet. But the internet is full of all sorts of quality of information, right? It's up to you. You have to be a participant. Will this eventually be able to run our lives? Maybe. I mean, there are a lot of different technologies trying to make that happen, but I also think it should enable us to be using higher levels of our brain, higher levels of strategy, higher levels of innovation, and of our imagination. And I don't know that most people approach it in that same view.
Yeah, my experience, well, my day-to-day job, we run a company that has human beings that write content.
Yeah.
and most people now feel they can just do it all on their own. So that's
Mm,
my first perspective on that, is that writers are at risk of losing their jobs. Their writers are losing their jobs because of AI, and entrepreneurs feel like they can just do everything on their own, and then it just leads down the path of how much can they do on their own. And I did see a great quote from another business leader who said, AI is great on its own, but it doesn't replace a team of experts who can do
yeah.
things, right? So,
Yep.
and then it also doesn't really replace your capacity. In my little catchphrase is humans in the loop, and
Yeah.
you just generating content for the sake of generating content is really counterproductive to your business. And I think that's the trap that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into.
I completely agree with you. We were like, we have one client technology company, and we asked them a question, and the response was something that came from GPT or Claude. And I could read it and I'm like, this is Claude. I know this is Claude. This isn't even you. It's lost personality. It's lost context. And I think especially in content, what I'm seeing is, man, everything's starting to sound exactly like the next thing. And especially in marketing, my viewpoint is, when you sound like everyone, your ideal client can't choose you. They get eye blind or brain blind. They get confused. They don't know why I should choose you, and they're looking for something that will make their decision easy, because we all have too many decisions to make. So you need to maintain the individuality, the secret sauce, if you will, the what makes you special in everything that you do. And to me, it's only going to become more exceedingly important, because right now we are entering into the land of generic and junk food. I'd say I was like generic content and junk food content. That's what I call it, generic and junk food. But we probably could have a whole nother episode just on that.
Yeah, I think there's a number of paths that entrepreneurs can go down on the AI front. My experience has been the opposite, where it gives you too much information, and especially, I've used it to ask, like, what questions am I not asking?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good at giving you the questions you could be asking until it gets so big and cumbersome that you can't manage it, which I think is another problem that a lot of people have now in there. And you gave the great example of, this doesn't sound like you. And I've had people call me out when I use ChatGPT to create a post. Brent, this
Yeah.
isn't you. I think that, do you feel like there's going to be a turnaround for entrepreneurs to realize that maybe some of the analytical parts of AI are the things they should be using, and less on the generative parts?
Mm. So it's so interesting you say that, because I have several degrees, and my first one is in journalism. So writing is a form of expression for myself, always has been, which is why we have books and articles and do all that nice fun things. Yet I use AI a tremendous amount. However, I have invested so much time into treating or teaching AI, my tone, my vernacular. I've also invested so much time into slowing it down so that I get better quality type things. And even what you were saying, like, if you ask me, I have learned in my usage that if I have a research, I'm going to research in one thread. I'm going to synthesize or summarize from there, and then I'm going to go into another thread, because that thread is still a simple beast. And so if I add too many layers into one thread, then the thread doesn't know where to go, and it gets very confused, and the quality goes precipitously down. So we have really had to get into a methodology of chunking, if you will, and thinking about how to break things apart. Now, here's the crazy thing. I do strategic plans all stinking day. My entire company does, all the time, all the time. We understand how to break it down. We understand what parts need the research, what parts need the record keeping, what parts need the different parts, and where we need to go a little, let's go into the stratosphere and think larger and different than we're currently thinking. But I can't give all of that to chat in one sitting. Chat can't process, not the duality of it, but the multiplicity of it, because it needs it's trying to get you to the quickest, shortest answer, the fastest. And that is way complex. Now, it can think complexly. However, most of us aren't at a level paying for the software at a level that it really can slice and dice that. So that's where I say, like, you have to keep the human in the loop. You need the expertise to be able to do it. You can surely Google, how to do a strategic plan. I'm sure you've got articles. I've got articles, right, out there. But at the end of the day, the Google should be how to actually get one that works, how to get one that changes things in your business, because it's often the more simple plans that have greater traction than it is the complex plans, which just kind of, I don't know, people lose interest on. They just can't handle the complexity and the day-to-day life, which is already complex. So there's a lot that in there that we've talked about is the human quality, but it's also understanding that you can use generative and analytical, but you still need a level of expertise on top of it to get back something that is productive, efficient, and of quality.
Yeah, that's a great approach. So Leslie, we are just burning through time. It's going so quickly. I can't believe it.
So
If you have
fast.
you have some predictions on this coming year. I went to GLC, which is a leadership conference for EO, and
Yeah.
everybody was talking about tariffs. And are you seeing any trends in businesses that are seeing? Are you seeing anything that you can point to that's going to see what's going to happen the end of the year, in the first quarter of next year? What is your prediction for businesses?
Mm. I I am going to put this under the umbrella of the trend that we need to be focusing on is how to be more strategic in our businesses and less reactive. The soup du jour is tariffs. 4 years ago, it was COVID. What was it the year before? What was it the year before? The truth of it is that we are in a period of exponential change. Look at ChatGPT, look at AI. In the last 3 years, the immensity of what has been happening. Most of our management, most of our operations of business is still 10 years behind the power curve, if you will. And I think that's why we're driving so much conversation on tariffs, because we're constantly behind the eight ball. There is a way to get ahead. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody will have a crystal ball. But I do believe that there's a certain level of strategy that's insightful enough that it allows for the flexibility and the responsiveness to opportunities, as well as detractions. Every time we're going through this in the last 4 years, again, we have the opportunity to break down the business in such a way to build it back to something that can actually keep pace. Most people, though, don't want to keep pace. They want to slow down. They want the status quo. They're still talking about what it was like in 2019, what it was like in 21. We can't go back. Like, I don't have a time machine. I don't know if you've found one yet, right? The only thing I know is that forward is the only path. And I'm more passionate about building businesses that can be resilient, that it doesn't matter, insert the blank. We have a plan for that. We've mitigated some risks. We've positioned the business in such a financial position that we're not worried about the downside. We're actually going, and now here's opportunity A, because 5 businesses just went out of business. I can bring in some quality individuals, or now I can take over this market share, or now I can do X, Y, and Z. And this is not a new theory at all. It was the birthplace of Amazon Marketplace in 2000 in the dot-com bust, right? This is a time period where more innovation can happen, but I don't see that being the conversation. I see a whole lot of wishing for yesterday, complaining about today, and not finding the path forward. to where things like a tariff, you have that back pocket plan. You have a path forward. You're like, okay, that stinks. I don't love it today, but guess what? It's not going to stop me because I've already planned and been strategic enough in my business to know how to navigate that. That is the conversations I wish we had more on a daily basis, because those are the things that bring you forward. And if you want to know who in your circle you should be having the conversations with, I want you to find the person that's not sweating and not complaining, because chances are they're already doing it in their own business. It's just not popular. So nobody's wanting to talk about it. So they're like, okay, I'll leave y'all over there. 2 hours later, I'm over here. I'm finding that next kernel of opportunity to take advantage of.
Yeah, wow, that's great. That's a great line there. So Leslie, we only have a few minutes left. As I close out the podcast, I give everybody a chance to do a shameless plug about anything they'd like. What would you like to plug today?
Well, you know what? Well, I will give a little gift out there. So we have a page for your audience. It's going to be at yourbizrules.com/. And we've got a couple things there. One, some access to our books. So we do books. First one that's on the page today is First This Then That. But also, if you're, I don't know, interested in having those conversations about driving a more strategic and resilient business, we'd be happy to chat with you. And there's an easy way for you to reach out and schedule a call.
That's awesome. And how do they find you? Tell us the best way to get in touch with you.
So yourbizrules.com/UE is probably the absolute best. That'll get you what you need fast. But we're really heavily into LinkedIn. If you want to do a little lurking, a little bit of suspect and prospecting, then we do have a LinkedIn newsletter called Profitable Growth for Business. You can kind of see a little bit more of the conversations that we're having.
That's perfect, Leslie. It's been such a great conversation. Thank you so much today.
You, Brent. Thanks for having me.